Ever heard of a story where you learn that your pet puppies are actually wolves? Obviously no, because these things are only bound to happen in movies, right? But what if we told you there's one such fascinating story that will blow your mind away? Stay tuned till the end of this video to find out. Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled in the heart of Russia, lived an elderly woman named Maria. She had spent her entire life in the village, growing up with her loving mother and father. Eventually, Maria found love with a man named Ivan, and the two decided to start a family of their own. Together, they welcomed a beautiful baby girl, Sophia, into the world, and their family was filled with happiness and love. As Sophia grew older, she met a man who she fell deeply in love with, and they were married. However, due to her husband's job, Sophia had to move away from her mother and father. But little did they know the young wolf cubs Maria had once saved would one day return the favor in the most unexpected way. As the years passed, the young man had to move closer to the city for his job, leaving Maria and Ivan behind in the quaint village they called home. Though they were happy for their daughter's newfound independence, fate had other plans. Tragically, Ivan fell ill and passed away after 40 years of marriage, leaving Maria alone. Sophia, wanting to take care of her mother, begged her to move in with her and her husband, but Maria refused, feeling a strong attachment to the village where she had spent her entire life. But Maria was not alone, as the village rallied around her, offering their help and support. One of her former students, a man named Dmitri, regularly visited Maria to check on her and help with any repairs or maintenance around the house. Dmitri, who was also a skilled hunter, would often trek into the nearby forest to hunt for game and would sometimes bring Maria some of his catches. In this way, Maria felt the love and care of her community, even in her loneliness. One day, while tending to her garden, Maria noticed that the fence was in dire need of repair. She approached a kind-hearted man, Dmitri, for help, and he eagerly agreed. But as he arrived at Maria's house, he revealed that he had a surprise for her. In his arms were 3 tiny puppies, abandoned and alone in the forest. Though Dmitri offered to take care of them himself, he had 2 other dogs at home who wouldn't be welcoming to the newcomers. But what Maria didn't know was that these weren't just any puppies, they were wolf cubs. Despite her initial shock, Maria couldn't resist the urge to take in these lonely babies and give them a loving home. She quickly found old bowls to feed them, and the pups devoured their food. But as they grew, their wild nature began to reveal itself, and Maria realized the true nature of her new companions. The puppies stared hungrily at Maria as she offered them more food, and she couldn't help but laugh and happily oblige their requests. Once the young animals were full, Maria prepared cozy beds for them with old blankets, and the little pups quickly fell into a peaceful slumber. As she left the house to thank Dmitri for bringing the adorable babies to her, she realized that he knew they were wolf cubs, but didn't want to disappoint her. He thought that while they were still young, they would not cause any harm, and he could find a suitable replacement for when the cubs were strong enough to survive on their own. After thanking Dmitri for his hard work and for always being there to help her, Maria gave him a bag of sweets to take back to his children before bidding him good night. As she returned to her house, she found the cubs awake and causing quite a bit of a mess, but couldn't help but smile at their playful antics. She knew it wouldn't be an easy journey, but she was determined to give these little wild ones a loving home. Still overwhelmed with the joy of having new company, Maria couldn't stay mad at the cubs for long. She cleaned up the mess and realized that she needed to give each of the puppies a name. She decided to call them Teddy, Rascal, Storm, and Mischief. As time went on and the cubs began to grow, Maria began to suspect that they weren't normal dogs. They were much larger than regular canines, their teeth were sharper, and they looked wilder all around. Additionally, all the local dogs would growl and bark at the cubs when they walked past. Maria's suspicions were finally confirmed one day when a local hunter was walking past and saw the 4 canines playing in her garden. He instinctively reached for his gun and was stopped when Maria asked him what he was doing. The hunter then told Maria that the animals that she had weren't dogs at all, but werewolves. Maria was shocked by the news, but she wasn't afraid. She loved all of her pups equally, no matter what, and they had never once shown aggression towards her. Maria was not worried about the wolves hurting her, and they continued to live happily for the next year. The canines were loyal to Maria and guarded the home just like a dog would. As the temperatures dropped, Maria and the wolves would happily spend their days inside the warm house. One cold fall evening, there was a knock on Maria's door. She opened it only to be confronted by 3 strange men. One of the men was holding a gun, which he immediately pointed at Maria, threatening that if she didn't hand over all of her money and valuables that she had in her home, he would shoot her. The three men barged into Maria's home and began to make their way further in when they suddenly heard 4 loud growls. It turned out that with all of the noise that the men were making, they had woken up the wolves who had been lying asleep in the living room. The canines immediately realized that Maria was in danger and sprang into action. The men were confused and scared by the sudden attack, as Mischief, Rascal, and Storm jumped at them, biting their legs and ankles. Meanwhile, Teddy rushed over to Maria, standing in front of her and protecting her from the man with the gun. Maria snuck into her bedroom and called the police as the wolves fought off the intruders. But just as she finished the call, a gunshot echoed through the home, followed by a cry of pain. Maria rushed back into the living room to find Teddy lying on the floor, wounded by a bullet in his hind leg. Maria's heart dropped as she saw her beloved pup Teddy lying on the floor, wounded. Her protective instincts kicked in as she quickly scooped him up into her arms and rushed him to the nearest vet. The other wolves, Mischief, Rascal, and Storm, sensing their brother's pain, followed closely behind, refusing to leave their pack member's side. The vet was shocked to see a wolf in this clinic, but upon examining Teddy, he realized that the bullet had only grazed his leg and that he would be okay. Maria was relieved and grateful for her wolves, who had not only protected her but also their pack members. From that day on, Maria knew that she had not just a pack of loyal companions, but also a pack of fierce protectors who would do anything to keep her safe. One of the intruders had managed to fire his weapon, injuring the poor animal, who was frightened by the noise. The 3 men tried to make a run for it, but as they exited the house, they found themselves surrounded by the police. They were quickly arrested, but Maria paid no attention to them as she was too focused on helping Teddy. Thankfully, with the help of a veterinarian, Teddy's wound healed over the next few weeks. News of the wolves' heroic deeds soon spread throughout the village, but for Maria, their newfound fame didn't matter. She treated them just like any other dog, and they loved her just as much in return. The village of Maria was in awe of the bravery and loyalty of the wolves, who had protected their beloved elder from harm. They were hailed as heroes, and many wanted to meet them and hear their story firsthand. But Maria was content to keep them to herself, as she knew that they were not just wild animals, but also her family. She treated them with the same love and care as she would any other pet, and they returned that love tenfold. They followed her everywhere, always by her side, and she knew that she could always count on them to protect her no matter what. The village soon became accustomed to the sight of the 4 wolves, who were now inseparable, walking alongside Maria as she went about her daily business. They were a symbol of love and loyalty, and Maria couldn't be any happier. Let me know what you thought of the story in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.